My feeling about this is you have the women's Sweet 16 on. That's a legitimate event. You can bump us for that. We both worked at newspapers. We know how it works. And that's a bigger event. It's okay. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. Wilbon somehow isn't here to talk about the Bulls buzzer beater. So I'm joined by our great friend, Mr. Frank Isola.
I'm talking about it. Me. I'll talk about it.
And we begin today with last night's Sweet 16 games. Alabama beat BYU with a blistering 25-for-51 performance from three. Florida beat Maryland, pulling away in the second half of a rather dull game. Duke scored 100, beat Arizona, and Arkansas blew a 13-point lead with 4:32 to go in regulation and lost in overtime to Texas Tech. Frank, which was the most compelling result to you?
You know what, for me, because you didn't mention his name, but you did mention the program, Cooper Flagg, he is the face of college basketball right now, and he plays for Duke. That's a big thing. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, he had 3 blocks. The shot at the end of the first half was big. And remember, Tony, this is a guy that's supposed to be a high school senior. And think about what he's done. He makes a huge impact on both ends of the court. Now, I think back to when Zion was a freshman. I think there was more hype around Zion. Every game he played seemed like an event. Your buddy Barack Obama showed up at a game in Durham. Cooper really hasn't had that, but I think that's going to change if he wins one more game, which is what Zion didn't do. Didn't get out of the Elite Eight and make it to a Final Four.
Yeah, I just want to start out in this segment by saying this, that all the favorites won last night. 2 number ones, a number 2, and a number 3 are now in the round of 8. That is real chalk. I'm not sure that what I'm going to say now is particularly compelling, but what happened with Arkansas last night is why the people at Kentucky were not upset when John Calipari left for Arkansas. Because you blow a lead like that in regulation, I'm sorry, some of that is coaching. You have to hold a 13-point lead with 4:32 to go, especially since the week before you went out and beat Kansas and you went out and beat St. John's. So I tend to agree with you that the most compelling thing last night was Duke scoring 100, Cooper Flagg having a really, really good line, and Duke went out against the highest possible seeded opponent in this round. They got a 4 seed out there. Arizona was a 4, Maryland was a 4, and so I think the Duke thing is pretty compelling. Now they get Alabama. This game everybody wants to see. Because Alabama, if Alabama wants to jack up 51 threes against Duke, unlike BYU that did not put a hand in the air, Duke plays defense, and Duke is the tallest team in the country, and 45 of those 51 are going to be contested. Alabama scored 113. Duke's coming out of 100. Alabama 113. Frank, that really is a game we would like to see, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm going to go there tomorrow night. How about the kid Mark Sears, who had 10 3-pointers? BYU as a team only had 6. One team we didn't mention, Florida, was great. And I'm not saying if Kevin Willard, if his situation was settled, Maryland's going to win that game. But how about that whole thing? You basically have a guy that's in the coaching transfer portal. It's a complete mess. And I don't even know whether or not to criticize him because everyone does it now. Tony, the players are in the portal during the tournament. And it feels like, I'm not saying Kevin Willard was all the way out, but he certainly wasn't all the way in last night either.
What he did publicly last week to basically hold the school hostage was, I thought, a terrible thing to do. That's me personally.
I agree.
Let's move to the NBA and the stunning ending of the Bulls-Lakers game. The Lakers were up 5 points with 12 seconds to go. They somehow lost the game. LeBron James made a terrible inbounds pass turnover that led to the Bulls making a 3 that put the Bulls up by 1. The Lakers then scored to go up 1 themselves, and then Josh Giddey hit a half-court shot. That looked good from the time it left his hand to give the Bulls a 2-point victory. Frank, is this story more about the Bulls winning or the Lakers losing?
I'm going to say it's more about the Bulls, and he went straight on, which probably makes it a little bit easier to make that shot. Even if it's a little long, it could bank in. But the Lakers took the lead. You had 3 lead changes in the last 6.1 seconds. You don't often see that in the NBA. And how about the fact that the Lakers down 1 with Luka on the court and LeBron, they go to Austin Reeves. And the Bulls, who had just come back, give up a layup for crying out loud. But you mentioned the LeBron turnover, and that's the one that's got to drive J.J. Redick crazy. It's LeBron James. That was as lackadaisical as a turnover as you're ever going to see from LeBron.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question, whether you concentrate on the Bulls' victory or the Lakers' defeat. And I think it depends on when you ask the question. I mean, last night it would be all about the Bulls. Even today, right now, all about the Bulls, because that was a spectacular ending. That's a great shot by Giddey. And to make up 5 points in 12 seconds, that's a Reggie Miller situation. But by tomorrow, and certainly by Monday, we're going to look back and we're going to look at the Lakers. Because the Lakers, I know they won a game in a last-second tap-in by LeBron against Indiana. But they also blew a 13-point lead late in that game. And then they blew a 13-point lead late in this game. Who's coaching them? Calipari? I mean, you can't keep blowing these leads. So ultimately what's going to happen, Frank, is the more distance we get, the more we're going to focus on the Lakers, because the Lakers are a playoff team and the Bulls are a play-in team, right?
No,
That's
what
it's going to be.
You're right. And J.J. Redick talked a little bit about them being tired. And, LeBron has had a pretty eventful week. And, of course, the tap-in, which was a great play by him. But he did look a little run down. Even Josh Giddey couldn't believe how sloppy that turnover was. For LeBron to do that, and guess what, Tony? The Lakers had a timeout. They could have advanced the ball. They didn't. And listen, ultimately it worked because they still took the lead, and then Giddey hit the half-court shot.
I can't believe we're talking about the Bulls and Wilbon isn't here. We would be scraping him off the ceiling if he was here. Let's move to an unexpected coaching change in Memphis. The Grizzlies fired Taylor Jenkins this morning, despite the team being tied with the Lakers for the 4th spot in the West. Jenkins has a .539 winning percentage since his hire in 2019, but the Grizzlies have been struggling lately. Does this move make sense to you, Frank?
No, it doesn't. And just so you know, they've named an interim coach, and it's a European coach who they like. His name is Tuomas Izalo. No relation to me whatsoever. But when it comes to Taylor Jenkins, you know that Ja Morant, and I wonder how much of a role that played into it. If you go back a couple of years ago, Tony, Ja Morant's behavior off the court sabotaged the season. Last year, he was suspended at the start, shoulder surgery, 9 games. This year, he's only played 43. So how many coaches have the 5th seed when their best players only played 43 games? Right now, they're tied with the Lakers. They play the Lakers tomorrow, and then they're only 2 games behind 3rd place Denver. So you tell me how that's fair for Taylor Jenkins when you basically had to babysit this guy, and now he's not even available to play.
Yeah, I will admit right from the start, I don't have a hot take on this. I don't have particular insight into this. I know that Wilbon has been saying on this show a couple of months back, and he said it much more than once, that he believed that Memphis and Oklahoma City would play in the Western Conference Final. So when you do something like this, which appears a move of desperation, you know, you're firing a guy with, 3 or 4 games, whatever it is. This happens in hockey. Lou Lamoriello used to do this in hockey. I think he did it once or twice, maybe for the New Jersey Devils. And one time he won a Stanley Cup doing it. So it's not out of the question. But Frank, I look at Memphis in the same way that I sort of look at Sacramento and maybe Charlotte, that all the buses don't go there. They're not on the main tour. So I got to be honest, all I know is Ja Morant. And I don't know anything else except that the ribs are great at the rendezvous. I got nothing else for you. Go ahead.
But, it has been a team that is good. The fans love them down there. Taylor Jenkins is a good coach. He'll be back in the league. Apparently, from what I had heard, this guy that they brought in from Europe, and they fired Taylor Jenkins' staff after last season, so the handwriting was on the wall. But the guy they brought in, they're talking about how he's an